Hey guys, I want to talk about the secret Star Wars film that not many people either remember or know about, and that is The Caravan of Courage, the Ewok Adventure. Now, this is a 1984 sci-fi film made by Industrial Light and Magic and with the help of Lucas. Now, obviously, I remember this coming out at the time, and I was confused back then, thinking as a child who loved Star Wars and just pretty much come out of the cinema and being like, that was fantastic. I enjoyed myself there with Return of the Jedi. That's the end of the story. But oh no, then the Ewok Adventure came out on VHS video, and I was thinking, what? But we did Star Wars. What's going on here? So basically, in the plot is basically set on Endor. It revolves around the Ewoks. A family gets sort of they get stranded on Endor. Their cruiser gets, lies wrecked basically, and the Ewoks start to pour in, and basically they sort of make friends with the children, and it's all happy and jolly, and they become friends. And Wicket makes a cameo, so we've got the first sort of genuine Star Wars character that we know and love. And as the story progresses, they meet sort of monsters and creatures, and we sort of see all the things that live on Endor. And there's some dangerous parts of the kids sort of like go on an adventure with the Ewok woodsman, and his name is Chukka Trock. And there's, Kawik, the Ewok priestess, and Wisty, and all these different characters from the Ewok village that engage with, the kids, and they go on this sort of like adventure trail together. And, and it gets a little bit laborious, I'm not going to lie. And, you ask yourself thinking, what is the point here? What is the end game? But basically, George Lucas, he allowed the Star Wars universe, to expand basically. And, there was an embarrassment over the Star Wars Holiday Special in 1978. So, Lucas wanted to take more control over television projects. So he hired Thomas G. Smith to produce the Ewok Adventure, and he brought in Industrial Light and Magic, because he was working on Temple of Doom as well at the same time, and they sort of pushed this piece together for the TV networks. And yes, it did better than the spot on the Holiday Special, but it wasn't anything to rave about. There was a few figures produced, and people sort of kind of forgot, because Star Wars sort of just took over, really. The Ewok film basically, it had a lot of stop motion animation, which was a bit ropey. It wasn't invested in as much, and it was sort of an opportunity for Lucas to continue sort of the universe of Star Wars, but he kind of picked the wrong area of Star Wars. Ewoks were loved by little children. They were seen as like the cuddly teddy bear. And Lucas, from Jar Jar Binks, he's got this thing about, Star Wars is made for kids, and, it's not for adults, it's not for teens, it's for kids. And it kind of just kiddified it a little bit too much. And that's where sort of, the Ewok film basically sort of went into the mist of emptiness, and people just slowly forgot about its existence. It wasn't a blockbuster theatre piece. It wasn't a sort of figure sellout. It just slowly drifted off into the abyss. And, people who watched it in the 80s, including myself, just remember it happening and thinking, this is a very simple storyline. It feels like it's just been pieced together with a few costumes left over from Return of the Jedi. But surely that's not what's happened here. Surely George Lucas has not just gone to Industrial Light and Magic, said, guys, can we just make something up here with the Ewoks? We've got about 500 Ewok costumes. Can somebody just piece together a little bit of a storyline, throw some kids in, and they'll just have a sort of rock climbing session on Endor, and we'll call it a film. Oh yeah, and we can make sort of a utopian society within the Ewok village, and everything's happy and jolly, and there's monsters, and that's the only thing that's going on in terms of storyline. But yeah, so we get the point. So it's worth talking about. It's one of those sort of weird moments in Star Wars history where I sort of think it could have been good. if we made, you could have put Boba Fett in there, or and any other bounty hunter. You could have made up another bounty hunter. You could have put a bit of Empire in there, maybe a reminiscence of some stormtroopers. Anything, not just Ewoks and kids. That's like the worst combination ever. It's like nothing's going to happen here. They're just going to play teddy bear's picnic all afternoon, and then the film is going to die. If this was made now, they'd be injecting, there'd be the Mandalorian in it or something, it'd be like killing an Ewok or whatever. It's interesting to see how Star Wars evolved. It has evolved from that perspective where, it really, really was for kids at the time, genuinely. And Lucas, fair play to him, he was writing for kids, but little did he realize that, 20, 30 years later, that there'd be a whole following of adults, old people, teenagers, the works behind Star Wars, and you definitely can't, typecast it for kids. It's for everyone, and I think that's where we sort of look back on this sort of like era of Star Wars, and you almost like think, how did that happen? But then things change, and this is the evolution of the Star Wars universe. Will they come back to it? Will they come back to the sort of like the culture of beasts and children and magic and Ewoks? Maybe, maybe there's a place for sort of koalas and bears and Ewoks all coming together in a happy place on Endor. But we're not going to see it for a long time, only when things get desperate in terms of storyline. But it's great to talk about it, and it's one for the history books. And I can't even do a quote on it because I can't even remember any quotes on it. That's how bad it is. So we'll just go out with a wicket moment. Genga fanga wa, what the, Enga fanga wa.